Okay, the next question is covered by Anya and Christine. They more or less ask the same thing. What are the spiritual implications of donating organs when you die and receiving blood transfusions when you're alive?
A popular question, a frequent question, and one that highlights the difference between spiritual thinking and material thinking. It can be quite awkward to consider. Because I am mediumistic and because I've worked in trance for decades now, if I was to give blood, which I used to do, if I was to give blood, that blood, because it's linked to my unique physical vehicle, contains part of me, contains my spiritual essence. So rather than somebody suddenly learning to play the piano, they'd be thinking, who's that stood at the end of the bed? And I don't think that is fair on that person. We know, don't we, with transplants, for example, that what I've said about I couldn't play the piano before and now I can, that it proves that there is transference of personality and vibrations between one body and another. Now, the troubling question is, what do you do if somebody needs an organ? What do you do if it's family? What do you do if it's your beloved? What do you do? And it's a terrible question that I can't answer because I've not been put in that position. I only know the mechanics of it. And the mechanics of it is that in my case, in everybody's case, your body, your organs, your blood has been put together for you. You work together in harmony. If you consider now, the fingers are moving. I don't have to say, move the fingers for me, because we're in such close harmony. That's because we are of a similar vibration. And this body is infused with my vibrations, which is why Joseph says at the end of life, you need to cut that vibration, that link between the two, and send the body back to its component molecules so that it can be used in some other way without that signature. So, bearing that in mind, it's a very difficult choice. From the mechanics, I would say it's not advisable. It's not advisable because you are transferring something of your vibrations, and therefore contained within your vibrations is also your karma. You're transferring that karma, those vibrations, to somebody else. And you'll say, well, I'm saving their life. Oh, yes, you are. You're saving their physical life. But what are you doing to their spirit? And we have to look at this holistically and say, well, none of us is here for very long. If you save my life today, I might have 20 years left. It's only the blink of an eye, which sounds very harsh, very cold, and I don't mean it to. You've got to weigh up, how will my vibration affect that person versus me not giving them my vibration? Will they have torment because of being linked to my vibration? Will they have pain and confusion because of being linked to my vibration? But then, of course, there's the emotion. We want to save the person. So there are two sides to that coin. The first side is the mechanics of it being a specific body for each of us, a specific, finely tuned vibration, exquisite machine, biological machine, linked only to us. And the other side of the coin is compassion. And what do we do if someone we know is suffering and we can alleviate that suffering? I think in each case, it's a case for conscience based on individual circumstances. But the mechanics say that our bodies are designed for us and for no one else.
What happens if when you die, you've left your organs to science or for transplant? Does that mean you're still connected to Earth, even though you want?
That's a good question. Are you partially connected to Earth because you've got partial organs left? It's a good question. It depends on the spiritual knowledge of the person involved. Does that person relate to the physical body in such a way that that man that I was talking about relates to their physical body, that they can't move on from it? So are they stood next to the jar with a pair of kidneys in it? I know it sounds a bit Frankenstein, but that's the scenario. Or is that person sufficiently informed spiritually to think, right, I can move away from those vibrations?
But part of your energy is still in somebody else.
Yes, but that energy, there are layered vibrations.
Right, so
There's,
you can go.
you can go. What happens,
leave that behind.
what happens with people that link to their body is that they're not of a sufficient frequency mentally to be able to move on from that body.
So if they were aware of that before they went, then they could make a conscious effort to separate.
Yes.
And totally leave without any thinking about that.
Yes, they could.
If they want.
Yes, they could, if they want to. We're going into the realms of not written questions now, I'm afraid. Sorry. You can, yes.
Can you repeat the question back for the cameras?
Okay, it's just for Abby's thing. So can you say it to me and then I'll say it into the microphone, the question.
It wasn't my question. Oh, your question. Sorry. It's more of a statement. If I have this right, for the last 5 years or so, we haven't had a choice about what we do with our organs when we pass away. We now have to opt out. We're all opted in, from what I understand. Is
We've
that
opted
correct?
out.
So it's just something to think about if you feel this way.
Absolutely. What an important point to make. And the minute that we discovered that, thank you for that, we opted out. Because I don't want my organs to influence anyone else in a negative way. And I don't want that body that's been so loyal to me, and I realise I'm not this body. Thank goodness when I look in the mirror, I'm not this body. I don't want this body to be dishonoured by being used, one, as a transplant, or two, for experimentation. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I should have brought that up. Yes, we've opted out, haven't we? Long ago.
And we did watch something a bit disturbing a couple of weeks ago where there's a concept of brain dead. But usually once you're dead, your organs become quickly, they're unusable. So there's this concept that you're not quite dead.
You're not dead.
And there was some
Yes.
nurse in the States who she
Yeah.
put together some sort of package of how to anaesthetise the person who was going to be killed. And the doctor said, what about pain relief? And you're saying, well, they'll be dead, won't they? And
Why would they need pain relief? Yes.
and that's why it came out that you're not
Yeah.
quite dead. So maybe another reason to opt out.
There was the example of a brother whose brother had been in a car crash, and they said, oh, he's brain dead. Brain death has occurred. And the brother said, I'm not having it. And he punched him. He punched the seeming corpse of his brother. And the brother reacted. And the brother made a full recovery. So brain death is anything but. It's another term to say, we want these organs. We're going to use these organs.
Because it's quite a lucrative industry, I'm afraid.
Grisly, isn't it? Terrible. So, next question, please.
So this is a question from Keith Munro, and he's quoting from Revelation page 184. That's
My
very
goodness,
specific.
that's
And Joseph's saying, in a way, the people that are swept into a wave of evil cannot help themselves. And Keith is saying, how does the above quote relate to free will and how we view the impact of our actions when we move on? So it's sort of questioning why the people that do such atrocities are sort of carried away in a wave of evil.
Yeah, well, they've used free will. At every point they use free will, and they say, I want this, and I shall have this, and I don't care. But that's free will, that's their choice. But through repeated free will, they thicken that concept around themselves, and they divorce themselves further and further from what they really are. They mask that voice of conscience, and we've all got that voice of conscience. It's built into us. It's state of the art. It tells us we know when something is wrong, but they know. I'm pushing that down. I don't want to know about that. And they thicken that wall of materiality between their spirit consciousness and their material consciousness. So they are doing it through free will, but then when inevitably they get to the other side of life, they have to inevitably face that life review. And that life review is not there to say you've been a naughty boy, you've been a naughty girl. It's to say, look what the consequences are of what you've done. And look at how you've harmed people. And do you feel that that is adding to your spiritual knowledge and capability? You see these spheres up here? Can you see how beautiful it is up there through that wall of light? Isn't that a lovely place? You can't go there. We can, but you can't. because you haven't raised your vibration by acknowledging what you are and living from a point of view of what you are. You have thickened the earthly vibration around yourself. You have harmed people, and you need to repair that rip in your consciousness. You need to get things right, and we can advise you as to how to get things right. But when you get things right, decide to get things right, is up to you still through free will. So it might take you 1,000 years, but in 1,000 years we'll be up there enjoying the party balloons and the, you know, the squeaker things that you have at parties. But you won't, and it's in your own hands. Those people that you have harmed, they love you. That's frightening, isn't it? I remember, and I've said this in here before, Joan, my spiritual mentor, was once crossing a park in Great Harwood where she lived, and the spirit came up to her in a suit and was speaking Russian. And it turned out that he was a Russian diplomat or a Russian minister. And she could see across the park, as it were, all these people in white robes waiting for him with their hands and arms extended. We love you, come on to this side. And she said, what are you frightened of? They're all there and they all love you. And he said, those are the people I had killed and I cannot face them. So there was no condemnation, there was no judgment from those spirits. The judgment came from within. So everything has consequences. Everything is a matter of free will. But a spirit can only advance when it is willing to advance. Does it answer the question, or have I been going around in circles?
No, it does. The sort of nub of it was more, it was the field what made me do it.
Oh, I said gov.
But almost like there shouldn't be blamed, but I know that's a bit simplistic.
I don't think Joseph is saying that. Can we have the quote again, please?
Yes. Sorry. So the quote is, in a way, the people that are swept into a wave of evil cannot help themselves.
Right. They can't help themselves because at that point they have steeped themselves so densely in their own choices. Now, I've got Joseph here, but I don't want to tune in completely or I might fall over.
Really?
Don't tune.
Pardon?
He's here.
Yeah.
Don't tune in.
No, I'm not going to tune in. But I still need to get that information from him. He says, pity is useless. He says, feeling sorry, he says, he meant in the sense that you look at such a soul and say, what is to become of them? Through their own free will, they have chosen this path. And they will not choose another path until they have been brought out of their choices through further suffering. So in that respect, we're sorry for them, but we cannot help them. We cannot make their choices for them. Free will is a constant, and free will allows them to go down that dark path if they choose to. But one day, he says, rest assured, one day, and it might be, he says, in our terms, thousands of years off yet, they will turn back from that path. They have to. And we will not rest until each one of them is brought back into the light. But there are periods, such as the current period, when the darkness is such that we have to allow it to accumulate so that it feeds on itself, it robs itself of energy, and the people that have steeped themselves in it at that point have to look for something else.
Makes sense.
And have to look for the light. And that's the period that we are in at the moment. Okay, does that answer more? Are you sure?
Yeah, I just thank
Okay.
How are we doing for time?
4:12.
What time are we?
4:12. I'm easy. I'm here till breakfast.
Where are we? You here till breakfast?
Yeah.
What's for breakfast?
Oh, it's your favourite. Avocado, spinach, egg. That's all right.
Egg. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
this is one from Anya. Is it true that at one time all living things, human and animal, were herbivores?
Right. Yes.
Animals and people.
Do you know, it was amazing. John said to me one afternoon, I've seen a lion in my house. And I looked round and I saw a lion too. And there was a point where there was an eagle used to come in as part of the soul group, and it would perch on my hand. And if you've ever seen an eagle up close, it's J big, you know, it's an enormous thing. And I've seen animals that are quite content to be with each other on spiritual levels, that on this level, they just pounce on each other and eat each other or destroy each other, or one would eat the other and destroy the other. As Joseph has said in the past, the reason why animals prey on each other is that they too are tuned into the field. And so what are the dominant vibrations of the field? The dominant vibrations of the field are we need power at any cost. We need to consume power. We need to prey on those that are weaker than we are so that we can maintain our position of power. So there was a time when, but if we go back and back and back and back, there was a time when animals were fed, and it sounds fanciful, but it was true because we are far denser in our physical bodies than we used to be. There was a time when animals were fed by light. And further than that, there was a time when we were fed by light. No McDonald's, thank goodness. We didn't need to eat. And what we're doing now when we eat is absorbing the light that's in the objects that we eat. We crush that food up to extract on a dense level the light that is in it. But originally, we were maintained by the light that connected us to the divine. And it's still there, but we don't acknowledge it. We don't believe that we can be sustained by light. I'm hungry now. But ultimately, I am a being of light, you're a being of light, and you are sustained by light. So originally, the animals, the expressions, those exquisite expressions of devic activity, didn't prey on each other. They coexisted in harmony. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it isn't. And they are such beautiful things. What were those flowers we passed by last Saturday?
Aubrietia.
Aubrietia. We passed by, we were walking to a cafe, and we passed by these purple flowers, and they were gorgeous. There was a light that came out from them, this purple light that radiated out from them. And you think, which of us can construct one of these? Such beauty, such love of being, such creativity. And that's a flower. And there are all these expressions of life around us that are so beautiful, but we don't, I don't say we, many souls just don't appreciate them. It is such a pity that we walk past such things glued to our phones. Excuse me, there's a world here. There's a sky, there are animals, there are plants, there are other human beings. Would you like to appreciate them? Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, so, sorry, I'm being long-winded. There was a time when animals didn't attack each other. They attack each other now because on their level of perception, they are fueled by the field as we are fueled by the field. If we change the field, turn it around, turn it back to harmony and positivity, restore the balance to it, all that will cease. Just as the violence that we inflict on each other will cease. It's a matter of balance. Again, it's a matter of the fall, and it's a matter of us going back to the time of the fall and saying, we got it wrong, let's get it right now. Simple.
This is one from Angela Campbell. When taking part in both the Healing Circle and the WMA meditations, I often lose consciousness. However, I'm not asleep. I'm aware, but not there. And sometimes I feel it's difficult to come back to physicality. Is this normal?
Yeah, well, first of all, you've not lost consciousness. You've altered your consciousness. If you'd lost consciousness, you would have no memory of being aware. The fact that you're aware means that you have altered your state of consciousness. During meditation, you find that with repeated meditations, you are able to let go of the heaviness of this world. And you find during those times that it's such a shift in the way that you feel. All the cares, all the aches and pains, all the heaviness, all the preoccupations disappear. And you connect to a purer vibration. When we used to sit for the Joseph books, the change in vibration that came into that room whilst we were doing it was incredible. And the same for me. In the trance sessions, when I broke through the Joseph communications, I didn't lose consciousness. I changed my state of consciousness, or it was changed for me. I was aware, but I couldn't influence my physical body or my physical mind, but I was still aware. Very often, I would find myself looking over my own shoulder at what I was doing, which was very strange. So you're not losing consciousness, you are altering your consciousness. And also when you alter your consciousness and the higher vibrations rush in and surround you and infuse you, it can be a little dreamlike. Their strength makes you feel further out of it, further shifted from your normal earthly perspective. So it does happen, and it is normal. And it is something to be embraced because it means that you have achieved that altered consciousness and are being true to yourself and also being true to the aims of the WMA and are helping people across the world and helping the world itself. So well done. I think we'll confine it to another 2, I think, before I fall over. Spectacularly.
I'm not sure whether you've already partly covered this, but it's from Carol Ann Richmond,
Right.
who may have just gone for the taxi now.
Bring her back.
Do you think the current chaos in this planet is due to the ego realising its time is coming to an end due to the descent of light? And if so, can this give us hope that the chaos will soon come to an end?
Well, the current intention, there's a very good analogy, isn't there, in the current intention?
Inkwell.
Inkwell analogy.
Yeah.
And he says that the souls that are on the dark path are taking final trips to the inkwell, and the inkwell is running dry, and that's what we're witnessing.
And there's no more ink.
There's no more ink. They are, if you are not tuning into divine energy, you are running on a finite amount of energy. And so that energy you are expending daily. And eventually that energy comes to a nil point. There's nothing left. And that's what's happening with the dark side of life at the moment. They keep taking another trip to the well, another trip to the ink well. And they become more frantic as it becomes more apparent that they are running out of energy. And that is what I perceive and what I pick up from PG as happening at the moment. The darkness is folding in on itself. It is consuming itself. And more souls are turning to the light and saying, I don't want this. It will not affect me. I will not be affected by it. I am part of the road of light. I am part of spiritual understanding. So on your bike. So yeah, it seems to be becoming more frantic, but I feel that's because we are coming to the end of dark times. We have to. They cannot run on their own energy forever. It has to run out. They don't realize that. If we draw on God energy, then we maintain our physicality. We maintain our experience here. If we're not running on God energy, then there is nothing to fuel us. And so we eventually run out of that bubble of energy that we've created that is not of God, but of the self. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Oh, hi. Hello. You're welcome.
Okay, I've been told that this has got to be the final question.
I'm sorry about that. I'm running out of energy at the moment.
And this one is Ken, who was the last one to arrive this morning. So you've just got in with the last question. Does Joseph bring forth information from the Akashic records which contain all things?
Yeah. Joseph has brought through information from the Akashic records as he is permitted access to them. And it's a global look at the Akashic records. It's not the Akashic records of any individual. Yeah. And he says he is only allowed, so we've got this high spirit that is only allowed to look back 2 foals ago. And he can look back 2 foals ago and say, this happened. And then it happened again. And as far as I'm aware, it has happened before then. But I'm not allowed at this point in my evolution to look back further than those 2 falls that he was involved in. And so, yes, there is an Akashic record that he looks at, but it is global rather than individual. He doesn't look at anybody's individual Akashic record. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I have a few final words. I think we'll wrap it up at that point. I'm sorry if your question wasn't answered, But maybe I'm on the dark path because I seem to be relying on a finite amount of energy.
Next
But,
time, bring chocolates and you'll get your questions.
Oh yes,
answered.
absolutely. Yeah. Yes, yes. A Porsche, perhaps. Just a suggestion. I want to end today, our final condensing from Revelation for the day. Here are the last few words from Joseph. As I constantly try to get across, the answer to your problems is simple. The answer to your problems is connecting with God and changing the world through light. And what matters is very, very simple. You are God. Connect to that God. Bring light into the world. Change the field. You save the world. You change humanity. You Christ the world in the sense of the Christos. It is so simple. It is so simple. The core of my message and the message it links to all the people who communicate through me is that. That is it. Because apart from that core message, all I am giving you is information. It allows you to understand how you work, yes, and how the spirit worlds work, yes. But the core message is the changing of consciousness through light. That is it. And here are a few final short words from me. Joseph's books are meant to be unpacked. They're meant to be uncondensed. There are so many themes in Revelation and in the other 7 books to consider, to reconsider, and to appreciate. There's enough spiritual guidance for a whole lifetime. Many people will read one spiritual book and then go on to another spiritual book and another spiritual book. They used to say to us, when's the next Joseph book out? Excuse me, you've got enough spiritual information there for your whole life. It's not out. Sorry. Read the books and then reread the books. Joseph's books are meant to be read, and they're meant to be read more than once. They're meant to be read time and again, because as Tony says, each time you read them, you get a higher level of understanding from them, an additional level of understanding from them. They're Joseph's words, but they're our spiritual memories. Joseph wants us to remember who we are, and why we are here. Joseph and the Soul Group, in short, wants us to be free. Now that's the first book, and the first book is packed with spiritual information. In June, we are celebrating the second book, Illumination, how to change this world in depth. It would be great if you possibly can that you join us. But thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your cooperation, for your love, for your harmony, and for being here. God bless.